The world is waiting for the sunrise. It's definitely not an easy solo to play, but I still think it's always good to get some ideas from Django. I always go back to Django, as I mentioned, and I recommend going to Django, the source, for this. I mean, a lot of people, when you hear them play, they're often playing Django phrases, so why not go back to just go to Django for this? But I also sent a nice little chord, an easier chord melody, primarily using triads, which whenever you use triads, I always say that's easier. And as I mentioned last week, I think, this tune kind of reminds me of Cherokee in some ways. Usually it's at a fast tempo, and usually the melody is half notes and whole notes. It's long notes, which when you have a melody that's relatively comprised of long notes, you're usually playing it pretty fast. Just maybe Avalon's another good example, but Cherokee is a good example. Whereas, of course, if you had a lot of notes, then generally might be played a little bit slower. So, if there's no questions, we'll just kind of go through the routine here. Playing the melody, playing the chords, playing some licks, some ideas. I even wrote out a chord melody, a little simple triad arrangement. In A7. Here we go. D7. Yeah. Let's check out that ending lick here for a second. I hear a couple different things. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-dum. And then I'm hearing this. So Stefan's doing the classic ending lick and Django's doing a bluesy lick. Did you guys pick that out? It's a little bit crazy there, but listen to it one more time. And then some harmonics, but Stefan's doing this 1. And Django's going 1. Something like that. Again, just kind of paraphrasing a blues lick there. But it's pretty, 5-1 there is often the case. So anyways, that's the idea. Django is really shuffling hard. As soon as he started to play rhythm, he was pushing it. And when you slow it down, you can hear some rhythmic discrepancies. Like, you have to really be listening carefully. Like, who am I listening to? The soloist? There's definitely some push-pull on this recording, more so than the other recordings, to where you want to just kind of know where that beat is. For a minute there, it was a little bit off, so I was like, uh-oh. And that's sometimes the case at a pretty fast tempo, is that, who's laying it down? So Django is definitely pushing it all the way through there. Any questions with the chords at all? I was doing a few things. Hopefully, I don't know, did you guys get a chance to see what I was doing for chords? For C6, sometimes I'm just doing this. This chord. It looks like a C bar chord, but I'm often adding in that high A. But sometimes I'm just here playing the triad. Sometimes I'm doing a C6-9, which has a 6 here. Sometimes I'm just doing a plain old C6, like this. Sometimes I'm doing C6 over here. And sometimes I'm doing C6 like this. Those are probably my favorite versions of C chords. And this is just kind of more of the 6 sound versus a major 7. So we have C6, C6, C6-9. Just be careful not to make it a dominant 9. We don't want that B flat in there, so it's C, E, A, D, G. And then C6 here, and C6 here. By the way, if you do it here, I just want to show you this chord. This is rootless, because my thumb wasn't on there. Okay, I'm just doing this. G, C, E, A. But listen to this, and how. See what I mean? It's the same thing. So this is the exact same as this. But notice it's much easier to do this versus this to get the same sound. So again, the G's, every time, in this particular arrangement, I was actually listening to Les Paul's version of it. They didn't do the G7 sharp 5. Les Paul did a C. It's a pretty cool version. You should check it out. Les Paul put a diminished 7 chord there. But I love this G7 augmented chord here. So we have this. If this is new for you, I would really recommend that you get this chord. G7 sharp 5. Here's G7. Here's G7 sharp 5. Okay, I'll do that again. G7, G7 sharp 5. Okay, does everybody have that G7 sharp 5 chord? Oh, by the way, the other thing is, I know I say this often, but if you want to communicate, just type in the text and I'll read it, then I'll stop, of course. And I would love to hear anybody play tonight too who wants to play a little bit. So basically we have this. E7. Sunrise. Now I'm going to F6. C6. And now it's supposed to have an A7 there. I don't know. Sometimes I just skip that and go straight to D7, like I'm playing exactly like you or something. But anyways, I'll put in that A7 and then D7. I actually don't play this song that often. I used to play it a lot more. And then so C6, A7, and then D7, but I play D9. 2 bars, and then the I'm doing G13 to G7 sharp 5. Again, I'm just showing you a few chords that I like to play. And you could, of course, just do G7. And the other thing I was hearing was tritone substitution. So let's talk about that. On the D9 chord, go to D flat 9. See? Tritone. So you can do this. And then back to the top. G7 sharp 5. E7. F6. C6. A7. We're almost done. D. And tritone stuff. Did you see that again? The great trick, the tritone substitution. D9. And instead of G7, the penultimate measure before the C chord, just go to D flat 7, which would be D flat 9 in this case. And then resolve to C6 9. So just practice this for a second. D9, D flat 9. Imagine the bass player doing this. See, that gives you that beautiful sharp 5, flat 5 color, sharp 9, whatever. Sorry, no 9 in this case. And then C6 9. So that's just a quick trick. You can do that with your soloing as well, besides just rhythm. And that's basically the chords there, okay? Any questions on that at all? The 1 chord, the 5 chord, back to the 1. The E7's a 5 of the 6, but it doesn't go to the 6. Instead, it goes up a half step to the F, the 4. And then back to the 1. To the 6 dominant, that's the 5 of the 2 chord. To the 2 chord, but 2 is a dominant. It's not D minor. It's D7, which is a 5 of the 5. So it's a lot of secondary dominants. To the G7, which is a 5. And that's pretty much the same idea through the whole song. The second half is just a little quick change there. So it's almost like just, once you learn those 16 bars, you're set. It just repeats twice, essentially. Just kind of like Swing Chaton or, those type of tunes where it's just the same 16 bars. The only thing is that you resolve it 5-1 instead of at the very end, you do only 1 measure on the 2, 5, 1. But the first time it was 2 for 2 measures, and then 5 for 2 measures, and then 1. Back to the top. But in this case, again, so that's pretty common, but it's almost an identical A section twice, essentially. That's why I wrote it out as a second ending. Like you're really just repeating it. I think I want to hit the chord melody. I think that's a good way to learn the melody. Sometimes I just write it out on my iPad, and I visualize where the frets are, you know, the chord shapes are. So this is what I call an easy triad chord melody arrangement. That's pretty much, triads generally are thought of as major, minor, diminished, augmented. But even though, you know, that's generally what most people consider are triads, you can actually alter any one of those notes to get the 9, to get the 6, to get the 7, or the major 7 or flat 7, or get some augmented in there. You can start to have fun with just the basic shapes. So again, for your instrument, we're all guitar players. Sorry, Tim, but I did give you the arrangement for a mandolin. I hope that worked out for you. But check it out for a second here. This is just kind of an easy triad approach. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the F chord. So all those were triads. We have C major triad, C major triad, and then check out this. This is actually a G9 sharp 5. I'm using a triad shape, but what I'm doing is I'm taking the GBD, or actually BDG, and I'm keeping the B, but I'm sharpening the 5th, and I'm getting the 9, and that's the melody. So you can do it like this. You can do it like this. So here's this G is basically an augmented chord, okay? So here's G major, here's G aug, and here's G aug with a 9. And hope you know what scale this is. I'm going to demonstrate. Django, love that scale. That's the whole tone scale. So that's a beautiful flavor on that particular chord. And that's, if you're wondering about where did this chord come from. And then here I'm going C major inversion, and then I'm adding on the 6th degree, okay? And that to me sounds like C6 still. I'll put C in the bass. But to be honest with you, A, C, E, A minor. Okay, so A minor played on top of C major equals C6. That's a great, important thing to think about there, that you play the minor triad, the relative minor on top of the major, on top of the 1 chord. So that's an A minor triad. But again, if you look at it this way, from C major, C6, okay? But so that's, it really is, if you were to add the bass in, and that was just a C triad here with the root on top, of course. So that would be called first inversion. I'm not talking about the classical terminology of it, but the root on top. And then on the E chord, this, to the E7. So let me talk about this for a second. Here's an E major triad. Okay, it's just an E major triad, 1, 3, 5. So if we augment it, if we make it a 6, and now if we make it a dominant 7, if we make it a major 7, and if we go up one more, we're at the root. So that's just a nice little lick there. Hopefully you can see how I came up with that little shape. Okay, it's just from this chord. So that's what I'm saying. That's kind of the triad method, is that you're thinking very simple, but you get all these beautiful sounds. F major triad, this is the first ending. F major triad inversion, C. Okay? And then A major triad for the A7. And this is where the typo occurs here that I just discovered. Oh, no, that occurs later. I have to look. Oh, and then here's D7 with a 9. You guys probably visualize this shape, which is great. You know, you can even fill it out if you want. I'm only doing these 3 notes. But here's a D triad. I'm sorry if I'm boring you going through this, but here's D major. Here's a 9. And then here's a 6, or here's a 5th to the flat 7. So that's how all these shapes can come about. And then resolve it. to the D7, and then for the G major triad, and then G Og. In that case, I went from this major triad, I flatted the 7, and I sharped the 5th. Okay? And that's, don't worry, I'm not going to go through all that again, but maybe I'll just play it for you once. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. F major. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Nice and slow. C major. 1, 2. A, D7. That's really D9. Oh, sorry, D. And then it goes 1, 2. And then, and here's that augmented. You can always throw in the bass. You can fill these out all you want to. Okay. So, and then this, hop down to the second ending. We'll just jump to this. 1, 2. And there's that C6 to the C triad. I'm not labeling every single chord. I'm just saying, you know, it's a C6 flavor. And then here's an A7. And if you want to put the A in the bass here, you could, but I'm just doing just 3-note voicings. I'm not going to show you how, okay, yeah, I can show you how we came to this one. Here's A major here. Flat that root to the 7. And that's a flat 7. So again, when we're dealing just with 3-note densities, you're going to omit something, especially to get the 7 or to get the 9 or to get the sharp 5. You're not going to have all those notes because otherwise it'd be like a 6-note chord. You know, sometimes if you want to have a 13th chord in there, 9th chord would be 5 notes, 7th chord would be 4. So of course, if you're only going to have 3 notes, you've got to do some omitting, and that's kind of the point of this approach. And then D, then we're almost done here, but D7, this is interesting. Actually, technically, if you look at the melody here, this is, we're almost done here in the last system. Oh, this is where there's an error, by the way, too. Okay, what chord is this? Listen to this. D7, sharp 9. I probably should have written that as an E sharp, but in the books, of course, the lead sheets is always an F natural. But it's just a passing note. So it creates a sharp 9 to a 9, and that's where there's an error there in the tabs. It says 4, 5. Oh, what does it say there? I'm sorry, let me look. Oh yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry, let me look. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I think I just corrected it, so that's why I'm like, hey, there's no error there, but it should be this. So maybe you guys can correct it. 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 5. And the rhythm be. And then to the G13, G Og, and then C6, 9. Again, this is a little bit of a lesson just on playing some chord melody in the style of Django, where he often did play these triads like that. Before he would, you know, like either just as a solo arrangement or whatever. So, D9, sharp 9, 13, augmented, and then this chord, C6, 9. The full chord would be this, by the way, but I'm just doing a partial 3-note voicing. So we got the root, the 5th, and actually the 9 there. There's no 6 in there, so it's not really a 6-9 unless you were to play that A in there. Lately I've been going through this with my Django class on Sundays, the note for note class. We've done Swing 42 and we've done My Melancholy Baby, and both of those songs are in the key of C major, and both of those times I pointed out how Django's thinking A minor licks on C major or C6. So if you have a C6 chord, you can play your favorite A minor licks. There's just an A minor triad. A minor arpeggio against this. So basically C6 is equivalent to A minor 7. So you can add on the notes of an A minor 7. And it's gonna be C6-ish sounding, but I love targeting that 6th degree. So do this with me, this little lick here. I'm putting in a little chromatic passing note here. It's G to the A. And then I'm going like this. And it's more of an A minor 7, but again, it's C6. But there's your C triad, actually C6 chord. But then focus on that A note. Da, da. And then you could do this. I know a lot of you like this lick on A minor. That's a nice little A minor lick. 1, 2, flat 3, 5. And that's an A minor add 9. Then you can do the same thing again up an octave. And now I'm thinking more of like, hey, I'm playing minor swing or... But really, it works beautifully on a C chord. And that B natural is a major 7 of C. So again, you know, whether you're thinking that A minor-ish lick or this, you know, that A minor sound, A minor. You could even, I was gonna play an A, I actually did play an A minor 6 arpeggio, but I would keep it more A minor 7, A, C, E, G. You're doing this lick. And the whole tone scale is super fun, and really it's I always say it's very French, it's very Debussy, Ravel. You get this sound. Really dream sound. And, of course, it's been used in cartoons too much, but that dreamy sound. But oftentimes you'll hear Django start off like this. And then he'll do an augmented. You know, or he might... Anyways, he used that flavor quite a bit. So, hey, on the second chord of this song, on that G7 sharp 5, that would be my choice scale, G whole tone. Right on the root, G whole tone. So let's play it together. And I'm going to show you 2 fingerings for this, 3 fingerings. Here we go, G, A, B. And it's just whole steps. So sometimes I like to just demonstrate on one string, just to do this. I'm just sliding up in whole steps again. It's very fun to just do that. And if you did that, you can harmonize it with an augmented triad. Which, again, I don't know if you guys know this, I hope you do, but an augmented triad is 2 whole steps and 2 whole steps. So it's part of the whole tone scale. The whole tone scale, that's really the only chord that you can create is that augmented. Well, you can create dominant, but you're gonna have a flat 5 dominant chord. So that's why it's used on a dominant chord. Okay, so you're probably goofing around with this. That whole step. But on our instruments respectively, and Tim, this works for you on Mando as well, well, actually, I'll demonstrate that in a moment. I'm not going to do that yet. But here it is going up all 6 strings on the guitar. 1, 2, 3. And then I do this on the guitar. I'm crossing over. And so I went from here to the flat 5 to the sharp 5. Okay. So look at the pattern. And it is a pattern, by the way. And then on the 4th string, it's this. It's the same idea. It's symmetrical. And then this. And then on the 2nd string, it's going to be the same as the 3rd string. Just these 2 notes. And then finally, to end it, just like the 1st string. So check it out. It's this. wondering, wait, how do you remember all that? So here's a quick trick. Target this, root, flat 5, flat 7, 3, sharp 5, and root. I'll do that again. And notice I'm using my first finger, and notice I'm just demonstrating crossing strings. I'm not playing any other notes but this. That first, that really helps you visualize where you're gonna go. Root, flat 5, flat 7, 3rd, sharp 5, D sharp, and then back to G. Now, because of the tuning of the guitar, you're gonna have 3 notes, 2 notes, 3 notes, 2 notes, 2 notes, 3 notes. G whole tone scale. And really, there's actually only 2 possible whole tone scales. If you divide up that chromatic scale into whole steps, you're going to have 2 variations. So G whole tone is actually equivalent to A whole tone, B whole tone, C sharp whole tone, or D flat, if you want to call it that, and then D sharp or E flat, and then F. They're all the same. G, A, B, C sharp or D flat, D sharp or E flat, and then F. That's one whole tone scale. There aren't any modes of this thing. It's just, they're all the same. It's completely symmetrical. So, which is quite fun because once you get this lick, you can just have fun in moving these phrases, or even little small phrases like this. Guitar players love that stuff. I'm going to show you another fingering for this. You guys might like this. I use this quite a bit in my playing, this quality of it. The whole tone scale like this. So here I'm going 3 notes per string. And then from, like before, but now when I get that flat 5, I'm doing 3 notes again. And that's going to kind of lead me this diagonal method here. So we have 1, 2, 3, flat 5, sharp 5, flat 7. And that's it. That's your 6 notes. There's only 6 notes in the whole tone scale. So once you get this, then you go to G here and do the same thing. So here's the trick to this outlining. Check this out. G, E, D flat, G, D flat, G, D flat. We know that as tritone. This is such a beautiful, quick trick. So look at this. And then add in the 2 whole steps above it. So you get this. It's pretty fun to play. So again, that's the beautiful whole tone scale. It's great to create a dominant 7, sharp 5, or even a flat 5. Those colors again. But notice that fingering. It's symmetrical. And the trick of it again is to target root, flat 5, root, flat 5, root, flat 5. You can do it as a triplet. It doesn't matter what rhythm you do. It just plays well as a triplet if you want to do that. And then here's another, just a quick trick before we start to analyze some Django solos. This is the only special scale I want to talk about because I have a feeling it might be new for a few of you on how to use it, even though you've heard it all the time. But here's just a quick trick. Tim, you're going to love this on the Mando, by the way, as well. It applies directly. So everybody try this. And just get fast at mapping out that root, flat 5, root, flat 5, okay? That's the most important interval. And you guys probably already know the diminished arpeggio, like this. We all know that G diminish, where you're outlining this. G, D flat, G, D flat, G, D flat. Then we're adding on the minor third to each one of those notes. That's a G diminished. Well, here's a super quick trick that I like to do. Django did this often because of his fingering system, is you just go up a whole step. But only, and that's it. And then do it on the next string. So you get this. It's all, and notice it's the symmetrical quality. I do have to say, be careful crossing over from the third string to the second string. You have to add 2 frets on. I'm swinging it. And C. G. C. A7. D7. G7. Notice I used it on every single dominant chord. So the whole tone scale is super versatile. But again, when learning a new scale, use it as much as you can, to the point where it's just ridiculous. You're overusing it. That way you really know you have control over the scale, in this case a scale, whatever concept. But you can also hear it and you also know it. And remember, there's only 2 whole tone scales possible. I love this joke. You have a 50-50 chance of getting the right one. You just got to know where you're starting at. It's either going to be G or it's either going to be G sharp. You know, so learn these fingerings so you don't have to think about it. And I'm just demonstrating a few fingerings. This one where you're staying in position. And this one where you're going diagonal. But if you don't want to use all 3 fingers, you could just do kind of the pseudo whole tone scale. And then C6. And here I did C major 7 arpeggio. Whole tone. C. G whole tone. D whole tone. D whole tone is the other whole tone. A whole tone is the same as G whole tone. So you see what I mean? You're only going to be 1 fret from getting the right whole tone scale. It's a little ridiculous, I know, but have fun with that whole tone. And I was just kind of demonstrating with chords, just so you can hear it. I always say this, if you can hear it harmonically, then you can do it, you know, then you'll do it with your leads. So what I mean by this, here's C6. Whole tone. C6. E whole tone. A whole tone. G whole tone. C6. Whole tone. Again, now I'm just having fun with some chord shapes. C6. G whole tone. C6. E whole tone. Okay, again, and E whole tone is the one that starts on G sharp. So again, you just want to, you know, however you want to think of it. You have 2 whole tone scales possible. That's what's so cool about that.